We have the power. And I am so thankful and grateful to God Allah for being here this morning. I've have been a little under the weather, but I'm thankful and grateful to God for all that He has done and is doing in my life at this time. I have on my guest this morning, an old friend, Pastor Bishop Apostle Frank Kelly, and I have my sidekick, Pastor Bruce Wall, who is engineering this morning for me. And I'm so thankful to
Morning.
have. I'm thankful and grateful to have both of these wonderful men of God on my show. I'm thankful for their prayer life. Thank them for praying for me because I was a little bit under the weather, y'all. I don't know what was going on, but yeah, I've been back in the hospital. I was in the hospital in January. I was in the hospital in February. But it's March, it's Women's History Month, and I am free and I plan on staying free. No hospitals ain't no joke. Um, but good morning, Pastor Kelly.
Good morning. Good morning to you on this beautiful day. This is the day that the Lord has made.
We will rejoice and be glad in
Yes.
it. How you doing?
Oh, I'm blessed now. I'm talking to you, and also
Hello, good morning, good morning. This is People Power with Priscilla. We are the people, we have the power. I don't hear anything. It's another Thursday morning. Can you hear me? Okay. It's another Thursday morning, and it's good to be in the neighborhood. I do have a guest coming in. Hopefully, he'll be here in a minute. But I want to say good morning to everybody. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. The weather is getting nicer. And so summertime is here. Summertime is here. School is about ready to get out. We have a lot of people graduating from college and from high school. So I want to do a shout out to all those that are graduating that made it to 12 years of school education. But also those who attended 4 years of college. It's wonderful. Um, so yesterday, there was a hearing at City Hall about around the budget. However, from what I understand, I had to leave early, but I understand that they did not vote on the budget. So we'll have to see, because I believe that the budget has to be voted on by June 30th. I know a lot of people called and requested that the city councils, don't go forward with the budget because of all the cuts that the mayor put through. Tons and tons of cuts. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say it was 20 million, but it might be more or less. But this is People with Priscilla. We are the people and we have the power. This is an election year, as every year. We have a governor's race. Our state reps and our state senators are running. Some are running for re-election, some are running for election. But what say you, Boston? What is going on with our elected officials? Are they representing us, or are they representing themselves? We need to really think about our power that we have, which is at the ballot box. And so I'd like if you're listening, give me a call, 617-282-0685. And let's find out let's talk about Boston. Let's talk about Michelle Wu. I see that Coletta, I don't know her last name, but the city council for District 1, she was back. She had a baby. I don't know when she had a child, but she did have a baby, and she's back on the city council. So Mayor Wu has her seven people back. I don't know if people realize it, but the mayor, she has a lot of power, but she only has one vote, just like everybody else. And it's unfortunate that a lot of our city councilors don't listen to their constituents, but listen to her. And it bothers me and it frustrates me because it's our tax dollars that are being used for these things that we don't want, like White Stadium. I don't know what's going on over at the Shattuck. I know this is June. This is Juneteenth month. So I want to do a shout out to Sister Patricia Muhammad. On the 18th of June, they will be having an event, Juneteenth event at Harbor Point. It was very nice. I went last year. It was very nice. I plan on going again this year. And so the 18th at Harbor Point. Also on the 19th, which is the official Juneteenth day, and which is also a national holiday now. Thank you. We will, as usual, have the event at the African American Museum of Fine Arts at 300 Walnut Ave. 300 Walnut Ave. We call it, most of us call it the Blackhead Museum. And so, yeah, that's June 19th. That's a Friday. So, and then that Sunday is Father's Day. So a shout out to all the fathers. And so, yeah, so Juneteenth, what does that mean? That's when we were originally supposedly been free. But you know what? We're not free. We're not free until we can do for self. We're not free until we can take care of ourselves. We're not free until we can really make changes in our lives, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. So, we still slaves, unfortunately. Hate to say it, but it's true. So I'm waiting here. I'm trying to kill time waiting here for my guest. It's my fault because I didn't send him the address in time. So I have to take the blame for that. But, what say you, Boston? Call in. I'm sitting here all by myself. Well, not by myself. I got Sister Renee here with me, holding it down. Good morning, Renee. How are you?
Good morning. Good, and you?
I'm good. I'm getting ready to go live on here. So if there was anybody that was down at the at City Hall at the hearing, because I didn't know what I left early, so I don't know what happened. So if there was anybody that was there, if they could call in 617-282-0685 and tell me what the end results were. I heard that they did not do the vote. And so next Wednesday is the last Wednesday in June, and they're going to have to do something. I know they wanted to put in a lot of amendments. They wanted to restore the budget. She cut housing, she cut youth jobs, she cut immigrant, some things for the immigrants. Unfortunately, I really don't understand our mayor. I think she's very power. She got the power, but she's very, there goes my guest. We got a caller?
Yeah.
Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, my sister. It was good to see you
Hey,
this
good morning, my brother. You heard me, right? So you called to the
did.
rescue.
I never want to see you struggling, right? So I always got your back,
I
But
hear
it's
you.
interesting when you were talking about us being free. I said, it's ironic that we're coming up on Juneteenth, right? And that's when they say, finally all of us got the word that we were free. And I still think a lot of us haven't gotten it that we are free because we sure don't act like it.
We don't. I always say I was born free, but I tell you, I don't understand, Larry. I really don't understand us. And I can't, it's sad, the way we are.
Yeah.
It's
very disheartening.
Yeah, and so you're out here, but you know what? We got to look at our ancestors. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for them at all. And now we have all this modern technology and all these other different things that we got that are right at our fingertips. And I
think that's one of the most frustrating parts about it, Priscilla. What you just said is that they fought when the price that they would pay would be death in most cases, right, for uprising, for standing up for themselves. And here, we don't face that. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but it's not the same. We have just not come together in a way to unite and fight in a way that we need to on the continuum. We took our foot off the gas, and now we're just regressing. We can't depend on the court. Back then, they didn't really help us out much. Some did at some point, but the courts now, we just really have to look at it and say, who are they really there? This is it's not a court anymore, the Supreme Court. It's a political arm of the Republican Party, and that's the way we really have to look at it.
Yep, I know. Well, Larry, my guest has arrived.
I know.
And,
all right. Okay.
No, well, you can still talk.
I'm gonna
but you're gonna listen. Call back in if you got some questions.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, my brother. I'm sorry, I forgot to send you. I just have so many things on my brain sometimes. How you doing?
I'm here now.
I'm glad. Yes, my brother from another mother, Mac Hudson. How you doing this morning, Mac?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm live on my Facebook, so I don't know if you want to go live on yours, but yeah.
Okay.
We're also on Pastor Bruce Wall's Facebook page also. So tell us a little bit about you, Mac. What you do. I know you do a lot of things. You wear a lot of hats. I know you have your own organization. You're also a legally, right? And you run the Black Agenda Coalition. So tell us a little bit about Access Mass, because I know you've been doing that for a while.
So Access Mass is basically a community organization to address racial inequity in the Black and Brown community. And we do that by creating initiatives that we implemented. One of our most known is From Liabilities to Contributors, which takes returning citizens who are from the communities in which they impacted negatively and return them back as strong contributors. And by that it's through the act of service. So we do a number of scheduled events, from back to school events, turkey drives, toys giveaway, which also at those giveaways, meals served. In addition to that is, we just try to assess what the need might be. So whether that be sneakers, book bags, all those kind of things. We try to haircuts, people getting little girls getting their hair braided. Just try to get them up to speed and ready so that money doesn't have to be spent for that purpose from our community.
And one of the things I like that I noticed with your organization is you don't do it just at one location. You do like 5 or 6 locations, right?
Now we have 7.
Okay, that's a good number.
Yes. 7 all at the same time.
Yes, that's great. And that's a blessing. I know it's a blessing to our community, and I know also that you did you tell your mom you was gonna be on today?
No, I did not.
Mac's mother is Lorraine Folks, who used to work for Garrett Saunders and Counselor Chuck Turner. So I see where he gets his advocacy from in his fight. I knew Lorraine for a long time, and it's funny how we pass on to our children, what we done and how we fight this fight. But you spent some time in incarcerated, right? And you created something in the prison. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I spent 33 years incarcerated on a wrongly conviction, most of which was for a wrongly conviction. I always separate that because there was some cases that I was convicted of and that I did, but the majority of my time spent was on the unlawful conviction. Ultimately, while I was down, not just I had the opportunity to self-educate myself and learn more about the system and structures. But there was also a group of guys, and a bunch of us really got together, and we, kind of brought back some of the old programs like the African Heritage Coalition, Spanish United, and we made them viable programs. And this is like shortly after the John Gagan incident. Some of the brothers, Darrell Jones, Fuquan, both of which are out now, doing some promising work in their own respects. But we and a bunch of other brothers really kind of, brought that program alive. Then we started instituting it at every facility, making sure that there was a viable cultural educational program at these institutions. And also my advocacy was about, making sure that I had my religious access at the time. So between the two and organizing outside community events that brought folks in, we was able to change the culture in a lot of respects as it pertains to black entitlements and the use of, I would say, the grievance, right? The grievance process, so that we can go out, sue, and get the things that we needed.
So there were a lot of brothers that were wrongly convicted, right? I know some actually. Joey Bennett actually happens to be my cousin, but Sean Ellis and Steve Pena, there are a lot of other brothers, and they've come out and they've given back. They've contributed. They've started their own organizations. They're really doing good things for the community. And so, do you think that because they were incarcerated and because they were wrongly convicted, is that what really like pushed them to like say, well, we got to make it better? And how do you think by them being out, how they can help stop this violence? Minister Farrakhan says we need to make our community a safe and decent place to live, and that is so true. So, because I remember they used to have a program called Scared Straight or something like that, but I don't think it worked.
No.
So yeah.
So I believe because of some of the cultural changes or shifts, the fights that happened behind the wall, we really allowed folks to kind of educate, talk to brothers that have been in the struggle or were struggling. And if you wasn't a part of that struggle, well, you surely observed it. You observed the people who are making the sacrifice day in and day out just to advance black and brown issues behind the wall. And so I think for some people, they don't necessarily make their choice while they're in. They make a decision that when they get out, they're going to do better and they're going to try to do something that gives back to their community. Others, they may not see prison as a viable institution for that type of activity because you're so closed in and you're dealing with a retaliatory regime of folks who have all the power seemingly and have no problem, trying to use that behavior modification on you, kind of thing. So that tempered a lot of folks from participating in those struggles. So I think that, but because they witnessed it, I think because they grown from their own experiences, I think that it allowed for them to come out and want to do better, and to live. I mean, to really live. And when you stop defining how do you want to live, it's like, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be remembered? That I just had a life of self-gratification, or that I did something to extend, the struggle for not just myself, but for those who's going to come behind me.
So you got some some laws and things changed in while you was incarcerated. Well, tell me about that.
Well, no, I want some suits. I didn't get no laws changed.
Okay.
Yeah. But there have been some other brothers who have advocated, and when you think about the racial equity lens, part of my job at Prison Legal Service is that I work for the Racial Equity and Correction Initiative, but that whole movement came out of a group of brothers behind the wall who were advocating just on racial equity all across the board. So the unfortunate circumstance of George Floyd kind of elevated that conversation, and at the time there was already a petition pending that was filed by the AAC, and who was chaired by Fuquan at the time and Russell Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
And that took hold, and and it led to several commissions coming out and study the issue, from parole to just to conditions to entitlements. So, and most of that study found that there was institutional racism that exists at the facilities, whether they was inadvertently or advertently. The administrators recognized that it does exist and it did impact black and brown folks, but they didn't have no racial data. And so part of the advocacy in which I'm part of today is pushing the bill seeking for racial data from the Department of Corrections while seeking meaningful oversight. But that all came out of the commission that was pushed and inspired by the brothers that came out of the African Heritage Coalition at Norfolk.
Wow, I know that. Good morning, Vicky. Good morning, Sister Fatima. We got a couple people watching. I know that you did a strike, right? While you was incarcerated. You want to tell us about that strike? 9-day hunger strike or something? You didn't eat for 9 days?
Yeah, well, I did a couple of those types of things, but and the one.
Did you do it by yourself, or did some of your inmates help you?
Well, we don't call them inmates.
I'm sorry.
We call them incarcerees.
You tell how long I've been.
But for some of usually when I've done it, it was by myself, and usually I was the focus of it because I was the most vocal at that institution, pushing for the things I was pushing for, which was cultural. The expansion of cultural events, meaning that we were seeking to allow more people to attend, more people to come from the outside community, and at the time there was no limitation of how many people can come from the outside community, but they was trying to limit the number of folks in the inside who can actually participate, even though we had space to hold those events. And so those types of arbitrary, discriminatory practices really, was what I focused on and advocated for, and just better conditions overall. I and a couple of the brothers filed suit, and I went on to win the halal meals that are being served throughout the Department of Corrections now. Also, the right to practice Jumu'ah while you're segregated. But there's been like many other suits that I done went on and won over the course of years, down to like they had to cut the hole in the door just so that we can have access. They had to remove your cups while you're in segregation so that you can have access to the library, the satellite law library, effectively. So there's been a number of things that I went on and fought, but I wasn't the only litigator who was pushing or filing. I was just one of a few that were considered good at it.
So you were basically self-taught, right?
Yeah, I was self-taught to a large degree, but I also learned from other folks who were more experienced than me, like, Lloyd Matthews. He was a very good, sharp individual, and he offered to show me the stuff that he knew after I already became good on what I thought to be good anyway. But after, being under his tutelage, I really learned how to see different arguments in various different ways, and it benefited me.
So you work for the prison. It's called the Prison Legal Services. And tell me exactly what do you do there?
So, well, what we're in charge of is the Racial Equity and Correctional Initiative. That's led by LaToya Whiteside. She's the director of that project, and she also is the director of the Project Rise, which deals with the substance abuse behind the wall, most of which impact Black and brown folks who are struggling with the whole K2 epidemic that's happening daily there. Our charge is to really address structural racism behind the wall. So we might do that through legislations, which is what I had just spoke to you about as one example of that. The other thing is that we may do civil litigation, advocacy, depending on what the nature of the issue is that we're trying to address.
So do you all go back inside the prisons and meet with the incarcerated? Is that the right word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because so we're gonna get on the Black Agenda Coalition in a moment, because I know Denise Watson, who's part of that, also has it's called Crossword Counseling, I believe, and she works with incarcerated brothers and sisters. So tell me how so let's jump to the Black Agenda Coalition for a minute.
Okay.
All right, I know I'm all over the place, but what made you decide to start the Black Agenda Coalition?
Well, so for the first 3 years that I've been out, I noticed that there has been what I describe as a political disconnection from the actual Black community itself. I mean, and it's not to say that we don't have Black representatives in office, but they seem to not be aligned with what the community think of its interests and what they would like done on their behalf. And so, it made me very curious. And then as Minister Randy had asked me to step into the position of Ministry of Justice in the Nation of Islam, one of the things that I was charged to do is just not look at what happens internally within the nation, but what happens outside of us, because we are all part of one nation. And so in convening several meetings among some of the community folks that we engaged, we heard great dissent, great dissatisfaction over very key issues that are the hot topic buttons in Boston right now. And I think most people, because there's always this urge to kind of push those voices back to say it's a small fraction. But when you talk to just the average person, they're in great disagreement with the direction of where the city is going. And so it just made me feel, it made me and others feel like there was a need to kind of create an entity that represented our agenda. What is our agenda? And when we started coming to that conclusion that we didn't have a collective agenda that represented our Black community, we decided to take that on as a task and then move the conversation forward. And so that when we have upcoming elections, we want to be able to have folks sign on to that to say, this is your mandate that you're getting from our community, and if you can't live up to that mandate, then we must do what we need to do to remove you and find folks that will execute that. And so it's just not the Black Agenda Coalition, even though it's structurally a political organization. It's designed to also look at ways of how do we advance not just Black community politics, but how do we advance economic politics.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
right. That's right. Because we seem to be at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to economics. I was listening to a YouTube with Minister Randy, and I forgot I forgot who was interviewing him. Oh, I think believe it was Brother Childs, and they were talking about Grove Hall and Blue Hill Ave, and how they had a lot of Muslim shops and black owned, black ran shops, along Blue Hill Ave, and it just seems like all of a sudden, they were gone, and so there's so many things. Minister Farrakhan tells us to do for self, and so that's what we have to. I think we have to believe that we can do for self. I mean, during COVID, a lot of businesses, were sprung up out of our houses, and we have good ideas. A lot of our ideas have been stolen from us.
Yes.
We've done a lot of work that we don't get credit for.
That part.
And I just feel like if we could just come together, as a community to make our place a safe and decent place to live. Because if you look at what we go through here in Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, and then you look and you go out to Newton, Wellesley, you don't see the same thing. You see clean streets. You don't see hardly no liquor stores. You see beautiful yards and lawns and things like that, and so it's like, why can't we do that? And I believe a lot of it has to do with us being brought here over 400 years in chains, and some of us still have that mentality. We are not slaves, we're free people. We just have to come together as freed people and work for ourselves, because we already see they're not giving us nothing, right? They ain't giving us anything. And so
yeah, I agree with you 110%. I think the analysis is much deeper. I do think there you have a lot of conscious black folks, and I think that part of what we don't think in terms of is how every year or every generation becomes more indoctrinated into the ideology of America, and the more that you become indoctrinated, you lose yourself if you don't start with the knowledge of self.
Right.
Knowledge of self was not something that was taught in schools.
Exactly. You think
right? So,
right.
So we once we understand that, and even the history that's now being taught, like most folks had to wait until they got into college and picked up black studies to actually learn the in-depthness of their contribution to the world and even to America itself. So when you have that as a fundamental dismantlement in the early psyche, then you're only formatting what you see. You're only echoing or repeating what you see.
Right.
And for most of us, what we see and hear is, cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. Dollar bill, y'all. You see, so it puts us right on the path of what is the quickest way, what is the shortcuts to do this. And for most of us, it was sold to us by others, that street life was the shortcut.
Yeah.
And so most of us took that route, looking for a shortcut, looking to come up, and then got struck out.
Yeah.
And this game is like a rinse and repeat cycle. It's still going on today, So I just think that there is a more in-depth breakdown to why we see or why we experience what we experience, because most of us think that we're thinking black, talking black, but really, we are thinking with a European standard, with an white American standard, and they have told us what the standard is, and so we don't measure to that standard. It ain't right.
Right. Instead of just, really knowing our history, knowing exactly where we came from. I believe we have a caller. Good morning, caller. Okay. Good morning,
Good morning,
caller.
Ms. Phillips. Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Hey, Mac, good morning. Good to see you, brother.
Good morning.
Hey, I just, was listening to you guys, and, sadly we do come together, but we come together for entertainment, right? Even things that are supposed to be momentous, like Juneteenth is coming up, we'll come together and we'll cook out up there, right? Carnival, all the events that take place when we are coming together and watch it. It's really not educational, but for the most part, it's not informative. We don't take the time to utilize getting those folks together. And sadly, if you tell folks that's what it's about, they won't come and participate unless there's some entertainment about it or some giveaways. My question is, how do we try to get folks to understand that that is not what's going to move our agenda and get us on the right path? And how can entities that normally don't work together start working together, regardless of whether or not we have a kumbaya, because it's bigger than that. You know, because I was listening to Mac and I'm saying, well, I'm sure there are brothers and sisters that would like to have them saying, you know what, they're entitled to, $1.8 billion for the wrong that has been done to us. Because I was saying to folks, being a former police officer, I don't think I could police in a way because I know the system wasn't fair to begin with. But even seeing what I'm seeing now, it would be very difficult for me to put my handcuffs on anyone that looks like me.
So I agree with that. I do think we have the ability to come together, and if it's not about, self-gratification or, just trying to escape, escapism, which is real in our community, right? Because we undergo so much difficulty, whether that's, just trying to figure out how the rent's going to be paid, food's going up, all these things. I do think, however, I am more hopeful in that you can build those coalitions and community presence. I think our community has been mad, and so what we see is when we have these events, they come out and they're venting about everything except the topic, because they're mad, and most of us are uneducated about the process. They don't teach civics in school, so I think it puts us in a situation where we have to be strong organizers and very patient with the process. And I think part of the problem is that those of us who are organizing, we're expecting an immediate return, right, for our investment. And when it doesn't come like that, because we have to put more work in, it becomes discouraging. I've spoken to like previous organizers, most of which now are on Facebook, and they release all types of Facebook posts, but you don't never see them in the community advocating or putting on these types of meetings to try to bring folks together to talk to them. And their reasoning is from my perspective, is bitterness, right? And that bitterness to me transcends from having the wrong mindset about understanding, where our people are at and what is necessary to bring them together. So I think you have to be out there talking to folks. You have to be bringing them along, and then you also have to talk their language. You got to find out what it is that they are mad about. Some of the most successful folks that I've seen do it, they've been able to tap into that itself. Like right now, Franklin Park is a real issue.
Hot topic. Yeah.
It's a hot topic for some of the folks that have been going up there for years, unimpeded, no problems, what have you. Now they're being told that they can't go up there or hang out like the way that they've been, even though it's considered a public park. You know what I'm saying? So, but
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's because who's utilizing it now? The rules have changed, right?
Right.
And so this is what we get. But also, that they ever saying, those who haven't learned from history are doomed to repeat it. And I think sadly, because a lot of our younger generation doesn't understand racism in this country the way those of us who are a little older do, that they think they're seeing something for the first time that has always been instilled in this country, right? And so they don't know how to deal with it, and they think somehow it miraculously is just going to disappear just by wishing and hoping. That's not going to happen. Didn't happen before. It happened by action. It happened by mobilization. And I think we're just so far behind that I'm not sure how we recover from this. I want to be as optimistic as you, brother, but I just, every day I see it, even some of the younger officers that I've had to deal with before my retirement, they just blinded, like they didn't want to hear it. It was all about making money, self-gratification, but not understanding it wasn't just about them.
Well, that's that indoctrination I was talking about, right? Like every generation gets deeper and deeper into the indoctrination because they don't experience the same levels of struggle, even though they exist. Like, we those, I think it was Richard Wright that said that the only thing that made black people legal was the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. And at any time, the Supreme Court could just wipe that away, and we would be in the same.
Which they're doing now. Yeah.
And so he said this back in the early 60s, right? Like but way back then, how many of us thought that we would see a day that we just experienced where they actually just almost, basically done that, gutted the voting rights bill. So, and these are just steps in which we're seeing. And I think for us, we have to come to a realization that we are all we got. We got to stop delusioning ourselves. And we have to. That has to be our resounding message to the young, because I've been at City Hall, and I've been seeing some young folks, man, that's been bringing the action, organizing, pushing for what they believe that they need. So there you have a group of young folks or organizations that are very aware and very active. The goal is how do you pull the other folks on stage, right? How do you pull them based on those interests? And that's why I said that it's really talking their language, getting them to understand that they have the ability to do it. And if you do, and then putting them in a situation to do it, right? And if you do that, most of them will respond because it's in their best interest.
Hold on, Larry. I think we have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hey, Miss P.S. Jackson.
Hey, Jackson. How you doing?
Good, and you?
I'm good. You listening to us?
Yes, ma'am. And good morning, Mr. Mack.
Good morning.
So my question, I haven't been in here long enough to know what you guys are fully talking about, but my question is more so based on the youth because it is graduation season, and a lot of the youth that are graduating tend to feel like, maybe right out of high school, have to go straight to college. But not many of these youth really know what they want to do right after they graduate. So I wanted to ask, what is, the best option, or what are, good programs that some of these youth can go to as soon as they graduate, and if they don't know what they want to do right after graduation?
Well, let me just say, and I'm, looking at what I've seen early on, a lot of them are graduating and they're not even prepared to even go to college. They're not even prepared to graduate, honestly. We've seen that that at least a third of the kids that are graduating from high school this year don't even meet the minimum requirement. So they put this waiver in place basically to push them out there, really setting them up for failure. There are options, T. Michael's been pushing the People's Academy, where there are other things, trade schools that we used to have, vocational schools that are not operational, that, could prepare our young people who can't. And in colleges, a lot of instances, it's not affordable. I mean, if you're talking about one of the major schools here, let's just say it's over $100,000, right? So even if you're prepared to go, can you afford to go?
Right.
Well, I do think that, talking to the youth about what those, at least what they think for themselves,
right, but
it's very essential.
I feel like Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it's very essential as part of that, diagnosis, right? It's like figuring out if that is something that they want to do, go to college or not, or do they want to pick up a trade. And I just want to kind of just say this. I think that we have to start thinking strategically in pushing our kids in different directions, when we see that they have certain talents. And it's not enough of us doing that. We're not even spending enough time around, or some of these organizations are not developed in that way where they can look at these kids' talent and, start talking to them about they might be interested in doing this or doing that. That's technically what the school and folks are supposed to do, but they don't really do that.
Right.
But I think that when we start thinking about the trades, the plumbers. We should be pushing our kids and all that to to get a lot of these trades, because you always going to need them, right? But also for our own sake, because this is the reason why we're overpriced now, because we don't have a lot of black organizations who have these trades, that they operate and they have these trade skills.
Another problem, though, is these unions, too. They don't take our, like Madison Park High School. That's supposed to have been the vocational school where our young folks will be able to learn a trade, and the unions will come in and recruit these young folks. But that hasn't happened either. And these unions are a problem also. I remember when we were out there protesting the Bruce Bowling building and 225 Center Street, and Chuck Turner, God rest his soul, he used to always say they don't answer to nobody. The unions don't have to answer to nobody, so they pick and choose who they want to come into the trades. And that's been an issue, because we were the builders. We built this country, and then when white people had to get out and work, they made the unions, and so that left us out, and so
right. If I would say, this is why what I was building to on my point was that we have to have our own union.
That's right.
We have to, and it's like the idea of it for a lot of folks, it don't seem realistic, but
it can be done though.
But no, it definitely could be done. We have enough folks who've been in the trade, been in the skill, have the ability to organize that and actually get it up. Do we have the corporation of our own folks to actually participate meaningfully in it, and to start training our kids, or getting jobs, bidding on jobs, and then taking our kids along as mentees, what they call them, journeymen or
apprentices.
Mm-hmm. Do we do that? But we haven't.
Okay, hold on. We have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Hello?
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. Good morning, Priscilla. It's Jeannie. How you doing?
Oh, hey, Jeannie. How you doing?
I'm good. Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I just have a question. May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I know that Jackson called, and he wanted to pretty much get a sense of what's the best option for young people that don't want to go directly into universities. Mm-hmm. Whether they want to go into trades and stuff. But I just want to make an observation. My son and I have been looking for an aviation school. Because he is an aspiring pilot, and the lowest aviation school that we found was $125,000 a year. Now with that said, a lot of aviation careers are not being afforded to Black and brown people because because we're so disenfranchised. I just want to ask Mac Hudson, does he know of any possible scholarships, or is there any scholarship funds that we should be tapping into? And I know of such, but I just want to see if Mac has any options. Thank you.
Oh no, I don't. I mean,
I just
learned a lot myself.
We should be our own scholarship fund, right?
Exactly.
We don't have to depend on anybody else. That we should be supporting our kids from our community to be able to go to school. Money should not be the reason why they're not getting the support. So we shouldn't be depending. And there's enough money that we waste on things that have no value. Let's invest in ourselves rather than materialistic things.
That's true.
So I think for me, these are things that I know that we can do. It's just, do we have the will to do it? And I think part of our problem is that we have such a great distrust within our community.
Mm-hmm. It was among ourselves, and we also, allow folks to divide us in all these various different ways. Whether we, you call yourself Haitian, Jamaican, foundational Black, whatever it is, we seem to grab on it and then claim it as our own, rather than push it aside and try to unify. And I think that has been our main problem now. It's like
once they taught us how to separate, we ain't stopped separating yet. We need to get back to unifying.
That's right.
And
Unity in the community.
Right, and we can make those things possible. But I have to say, it's like, look, everything that I've ever saw built in my lifetime didn't start off with a bunch of folks who said yes, it could be done. It started off with a few people who were dedicated to its cause, and then eventually, when it became what it became, everyone it had community buy-in. But you had to work those relationships.
That's right.
And that's what I mean by even us as organizers. We seem to be unwilling to work those relationships and deal with the challenges in which our community presents.
We got 2 minutes, y'all. I can't believe this. So I got to do a shout out for the Black Agenda Coalition tonight at 6 p.m. We're having a meeting at Torchlight. That's 2 Washington Street in Grove Hall. We meet every Thursday there, and we're really building this Black Agenda Coalition because we need to do this for us, by us.
That's right.
And I just got the 2-minute signal, so we're gonna have to get off here. But Jeannie, Jackson, Larry, we appreciate you all calling. We thank you, and I'm gonna give Mac the last minute if he wants to give his information, how people can reach him, get in touch with him.
So, yeah, sure. If you're interested in the work that I'm doing with REICI or Access Mass, or more importantly, the Black Agenda Coalition, the Black Agenda Coalition is blackagendacoalition@gmail.com. Access Mass is Access ACCESSMA 2022 @gmail.com. If you send me email, and then the REICI, which is at Prison Legal Service, that's M and then Hudson, which is my last name, and